Don't you see that the whole aim of Newspeak is to narrow the range of thought? In the end, we shall make thought crime literally impossible, because there will be no words in which to express it. The perfect world of the left, described by O'Brien in Orwell's magnum opus 1984. I suggest you give it a rereading, or maybe even for the first time for some of you. Maybe not you guys. Seems like we take more steps in every single direction, and every Orwellian principle is manifested by the left. This latest one, an exercise in doublethink, when the Vaxx Nazi and mask Stasi crowd came out this week and said, let's declare a pandemic amnesty. We need to forgive one another for what we did and said when we were, and I quote, in the dark about COVID. I'd be a lot more inclined to take them seriously if that wasn't the same crowd that would say, I would argue that COVID does kill some of the right people. The unvaxxed are dying in legions. But then again, because God has a sense of humor, this bitch died of cardiac arrest. Thoroughly vaxxed, by the way, after battling what? Oh, that's right. The same COVID for which she wished death, imprisonment, and poverty on the rest of us for not being driven by the same fear that she was. You see, we were the tinfoil hat conspiracy theorists. We can look at the quote from Martin Geddes: to denigrate something as conspiracy theory without having fully investigated the data is an act of cowardice. You cause an affront to those who offer the possibility that harm is being done to innocent people just to avoid confrontation with your own fears of it being true. Fear being the key word, coward being the linchpin. But cowards abound, do they not? Cowards abound. And they will try to push their fear on you as they do going into the midterms. It seems that this confused, cadaverous plaything has become convinced and will attempt to gaslight you into believing that democracy itself, the act of voting and participating in a democracy, is a threat to democracy. This crowd has actually gone so far as to suggest strongly, if not outright state, that free speech is a threat to democracy. How ironic, coming from a group of liars whose very financial security and existence depends on that principle. Now, I'm an absolutist for free speech. The thing about being an absolutist for free speech is that you have to recognize the fact that it's generally self-regulating. Now, I pride myself on integrity and consistency, and I am inclined to call bullshit on anyone, anywhere, anytime, up to and including Darth Cheeto here. We are days out, hours if you really want to scrunch it, from what is arguably the most important midterm election in a long, long time. And this moron picked yesterday to take a jab at DeSantis. When you have a winning team, you don't take jabs at the bench, Sparky. And I even have to call my boy Elon out. I understand why he did what he did with Kathy Griffin. He went to set an example, but considering it was the Babylon Bee's suspension from the platform that was his very impetus for buying it in the first place, sorry, buddy, that was a bad move. But that's the beauty of free speech. Elon will allow it on his platform. I will not hear the criticism of Elon suppressing free speech from the same people that cheered such censorship on because my private company. But the beauty of truly free speech is that it is self-regulating. He does something stupid, I call him out. A guy that I tremendously respect and revere does something stupid, I get to call him out. But it's the fear of that principle of free speech being driven by this crowd that they are pushing going into the midterms. What is it exactly that they fear to turn that game on its head? It's this principle that they fear. It is liberty. Both teams will fly under their own flags, but it's not this flag in particular that they are afraid of. It is the principle that it represents, especially in crowds like this, flying the American flag as well as the Gadsden flag, to let them know that no matter who's bringing it, we have had enough. I continue to believe that we've hit a tipping point. We are 2 days away from finding out just how right or wrong I am. And because I do believe in freedom of speech, I expect every goddamn one of you to call me on it, no matter which way it falls. The opinions expressed by the Reverend are his own and no one else's on the planet. Not friends, not foes, not supporters, not detractors, not sponsors. And I cannot stress this enough, certainly not employers. They have been adjudicated thought crime in all jurisdictions. Consider yourself warned. They are coming from the heart. They are guided by the mind. They are guaranteed to choke you with a big, fat dose of throbbing, turgid, thorny, dripping, oozing truth cock. Welcome back, boys and girls. It's time once again for the Sunday sermon. Whoa, that's interesting, ain't it? First production faux pas in a couple of weeks. We'll take it, man. It's just me. I'm working by myself. I've got very little equipment. Somebody cut me some slack. Everybody in for the drum roll, please. Ah, yes. Coming out, hard charge for the starting gate. I am back on my fuck Antifa tip this week. Because you can bet your ass they're not boarding up windows in Seattle and Portland because they're afraid the Republicans are going to lose. Drazen is leading Kotek. It is going to be a bloodbath, and you can bet your ass that the fucking maggot militia is going to be right out there at the forefront after pushing the fact that we are the guys that are fucking pushing political violence. Classic doublethink, but who gives a fuck anymore? Don't engage with these people. There's nothing to be gained. Shut up and win. That's what I'm counting on for Tuesday. We'll see if my optimism is misplaced. Let's go ahead and roll down. We'll do a little quick roll call. We got Brother Dennis Weimer on board. OG Reverend Ranger Prophet of Doom. One of my oldest and dearest friends, Mr. Roman from OpiumTales.com. On Wade. Good evening, folks. Glad everybody's here. Brother Ryan on board. Good, man. Glad to see you early. The original Sinner Sister herself. Gonna try to hang on at least to the rabbit hole. We're 13 to 21. Honey, it's cool. I get it. I get it. Things are nuts down in Houston right now. Brother Joel on board. Former Houston denizen. Much like myself. Got to give a shout out to the Astros. Look, man, you guys know I'm not a sports guy, and I'm definitely not a baseball guy, but I spent 26 years in Houston, Texas. That city made me every fucking thing that I am, good, bad, and ugly. Oh, a debt of thanks to Lone Star, though. A debt of thanks to fucking H-Town. Congratulations to the Houston Astros. Fuck those Yankee Philly fucks. You should have known better than to fuck with Mac, dude. North Side, motherfucker. Google is free. I'll spare you, man. If you know, you know. Brother David McConnell on board. Mighty Mike. Mr. Stone, the one and only. Good to have you here, brother. Let me see. Have you recovered from the post-win crazy sales? And, of course, the answer coming back, no. And I'm not surprised at that either. Brother James Pearson, speaking of Lone Star denizens, good to see you, brother. Roll on through it. I think that's all of our usual suspects. Look at that. Tidwell and Parker represent. There is not one person that comes out of Houston that cannot tell you exactly where Mattress Mac's shop is. You already know the drill, people. Only speaking for myself. If I was pushing violence, they'd notice. Brother, I am with you on that 110%. We are the guys that have the guns. We are the guys that have the spine and the balls. We had one event in Knob Creek, Kentucky, where so much firepower was being dumped downrange that the following week, right, the mainstream news media showed that video and said that it was coming from a Syrian war zone. Look that up. That shit actually happened. We have over 300 million small arms in circulation in the United States and literally billions of rounds of ammunition. If we were the problem, you'd fucking know it, Sparky. There would be no illusions. So don't kid yourself. And don't get gaslit by these motherfuckers. If you're H-Town, tell me where Mac's shop is, man. Give me the address. 6006 I-45 North between Kidwell and Parker. Roll up, bitch. I'm a little charged up today, man. Just got out of the garage, hitting a little bit of iron on a nice, cool Pacific Northwest day. Got my liquid enthusiasm here. Fade this bumper music out. We'll go ahead and jump off into it, man. A lot of stuff to get into this week. Sometimes, man, it's really, really difficult. The outrage with these motherfuckers is just so overwhelming that that it becomes almost impossible to articulate, man. You want to say how bad you're pissed at a particular thing that they said, or a particular thing that they've done, or a particular part of the narrative that they're pushing, but it is so vile. And so, thank you, Emmy. That was very thoughtful. Very, very thoughtful. Thanks. There's a part of something that they say or something that they do that is so fucking vile that the rage becomes almost impossible to articulate. It just comes out as a big fucking scream and a deep-seated desire to be what they project on us. To be that demographic that takes it straight out into the street and just starts laying people's heads open with sticks. You know, obviously that's not wired into our makeup, particularly in the way that we are assigned, particularly in the way that we are described. But God help me, man, on my less restrained days, I just want to take one afternoon and show them in a very visceral way. No, violence. This is what violence looks like, motherfucker. Words are not violence. This is violence. Now have we established a baseline? Now do we know the difference? Next week the camera will be taped to his pet. Yeah, that's actually, yes. It's a trick of light. I'm not actually bigger. It's just the fact that the webcam is just right close to my bicep. If I turn this way, yes, you can see that, yes, I'm considerably smaller. Well done, kids. Let me get a couple of sponsor shout-outs out of the way, and we're just gonna bounce right off into this shit this week, man. I'm feeling pretty good. Got an interesting prospect this week, and I'll be giving you the heads up on how that turns out next week. Just a little teaser. A couple of sponsor shout-outs real quick. First and foremost, as always, Roman and his lovely wife Carrie and Roxy and Allie and the bevy of beautiful women over there at opiumtales.com. They are the erotic pinups and portraits people. We've got some top-notch watercolor work that Roman's been working on for a long time, and of course, testosterone-driven commentary. So, naked women, testosterone-driven commentary. What's not to like about that? It's very Planet Bart, which is why Roman has been one of my oldest and dearest friends going all the way back to 1988. Brother, using Instagram filters. I don't think they have the Instagram filter that I would want. I would want like some Cenobite filter, to where I could just click on a button and there'd just be like bizarre metallic torture contraptions running through my skull. I don't think Instagram makes a filter like that. I mean, if you find one, feel free to send it along. And of course, I got to give a shout out to Casey and Dusty Tellison, my Viking brothers over at Nordic Smoke Barbecue, the only legit barbecue in the Inland Northwest. We were able to coordinate it. I was able to break my meatless fast. You guys noticed the hat's off, and I'm back down and shaved down to the scalp again. The meatless fast was broken with Nordic Smoke. I got a big ass tin tray of ribs and a big ass tin tray of chicken thighs, and devoured that, man. Just you, 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 me, and violence. Give them a listen. Right on. Will do. Will do. Um. So yeah, I was able to break my meatless fast. On my 30th year of celebrating that tradition, I was able to break that fast with Nordic Smoke Barbecue. I was able to coordinate that, and it was fantastic. Completely met and exceeded expectations. It was so nice to get my face back into a tray full of those fucking ribs. They're fantastic. Again, the only legit barbecue in the Inland Northwest. Casey and Dusty Tellison, Nordic Smoke Barbecue. You can find them on social media, find them on the website. They're shipping the sauces. They're doing stuff for the holidays. They'll be smoking my Thanksgiving turkey again this year, as they have every year since I've been in the Northwest. And it's really fantastic. How do you eat enough without meat? Well, David, that's part of the sacrificial end of that tradition, is the deprivation of that, because that is so inherent to my way of doing things. Everything about my lifestyle revolves around the consumption of fucking animal flesh. You train heavy. Yes, you have vegetarian bodybuilders, blah 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 blah. The vegan types and all that, whatever. Look, man, I'm old school. I lift heavy shit. I eat red meat. But during that meatless sacrifice, it compels me to stay mindful. I am consistently in calorie deficit through that entire month. I am consistently in protein deficit through that entire month. There are only so many eggs you can choke down over the course of a day. Only so much of that. So that's, yeah, David. That's a perfectly. And I was healing. Particularly, but the good thing is, going into that, I had already had. The surgery was August the 18th. I'd already had a month and a half going in before I started doing that. And of course, I was taking calcium supplements and protein supplements on top of all the stuff that I was doing. And of course, consistently testosterone supplements as well. So being on performance enhancing drugs will also boost your recovery. It will make the most of every bit of protein that you're taking in. So it did not adversely affect the healing process at all. I ratcheted my training regimen back a little bit to basically to compensate for the lack of consistent protein intake. You can't lift as heavy. You can't lift as often. You make the adjustment. But again, this is the 30th year that I've done that. Hey, what's up? Look who decided to join us, man. What's going on? What's going on? T and Trend. T and Trend for the win. Yes. Yes, indeed, man. Yes. A lot to be said for that. I'm actually a Sustanon guy myself, but that's basically T. I mean, it's just 4 different testosterone esters. So, I mean, if you want to say T and Tren, yeah, Sus and Tren, I mean, it's the same. I'm just kidding. I'm just getting 4 for 1, Bodie. I'm just getting 4 for 1. But yeah, no, in no way was my recovery compromised by that, nor would I have allowed it to get to that point. If it would have become incumbent upon me to do so, I would have completely stopped lifting for the entire month until I could get my protein supplementation back to where it needed to be for the necessary muscle recovery. But I did okay. It didn't adversely affect me in any way. And for those of you that wonder, I do semi-consistently get blood work done. So I watch the way that it fluctuates. One of the things that we did prior to the surgery, by the way, was they noted that my red cell count was just off the fucking charts. Like, I don't know the specifics of it, but what they basically dumbed it down to for me was that normal people roll around like a 13, 13.5, and I was just shy of 19. Like some thick ass fucking blood. So I had to suspend all use of anabolic agents prior to the surgery for a month and a half, and they had to bleed like a full liter of whole blood out of me before surgery, because otherwise, clotting and things like that. So, just one of those things. But again, enough of that. Let's get on to it. Let's jump into this thing, shall we? Let me get back to the production screen here. The first and foremost, right out of the starting gate, we are going to jump into the Ryan's Rabbit Hole segment. You guys know that Brother Ryan and I are both repositories of useless information. It's one of the things that we bonded over early on. He definitely makes me work for it, and 7 times out of 10, he he's ready to go deeper than I am on some very obscure and very esoteric stuff. But anyway, little segment that we do every week. We get off the beaten path a little bit. Some weeks we go historical, some weeks we go philosophical, some weeks we go esoteric, some weeks we go conspiratorial. This week we're going a little historical and a little conspiratorial. What your search terms are going to be our Black Knight satellite. That's right, Black Knight, Knight with a K is in Knight in Shining Armor, satellite. SATE, 2 L's. Yes, not 2 T's. SA single T E 2 L's ITE. Satellite. Black Knight satellite. That is going to be your rabbit hole search engine. The first results you're going to pull up are, of course, going to use, what are they going to say? What are they going to say? Think tinfoil hat. What are they going to say? It's a conspiracy theory. It's a conspiracy theory. It's a conspiracy theory. What does the Rev say about that? I'll tell you what the Rev says. The Rev says that everything is a conspiracy theory until the proper documents get declassified. That's where I'm at with that. You guys know that I was in the strip club business for a long time. There was a joke in the strip club business. What's the difference between a waitress and a dancer? The punchline is usually about 2 weeks. Now the joke goes like this. What is the difference between a conspiracy theory and mainstream acceptable news? About 2 weeks. Same fucking punchline. In any case, the Black Knight satellite theory has been around way longer than a couple of weeks. In fact, there's a fellow by the name of Donald Kehoe. If you are a UFO nut, because there are going to be guys there are going to be guys like Kehoe and J. Allen Hynek and some of the others that, unless you're like really, really, really into the UFO research thing, you're not going to know. But there's another search term for you. It was Donald Kehoe. You can look into some of his research back in the 50s before Sputnik was even up. Sputnik, we were in the space race with the Soviet Union. That's back when the scary Russians were really the fucking scary Russians back then. The Soviet Union, they were the largest communist superpower on the planet, second largest nuclear arsenal on the planet, would eventually become the biggest nuclear arsenal on the planet. Though the numbers have come down, that is a status that they still maintain to this day. And they were the first ones. We had the arms race going on, but we also had the space race going on. And it was more than a competition between countries. It was a competition between systems, is what you have to understand. For those of you that don't know the history, for those of you that didn't live through the ass end of the Cold War, you don't understand that what it represented was more than a struggle between men, more than a struggle between countries. It was a struggle between systems, whether capitalism and liberty and freedom would prevail, or whether top-down authoritarianism would prevail. And when the Soviets put up Sputnik, they had the jump on us. That was the first acknowledged, that's the important bit, the first acknowledged artificial satellite to orbit the Earth. But years, in fact, if memory serves, 4 years before Sputnik was launched, it's either 4 or 8. My Rolodex is a little faded. Kehoe, Kehoe basically intimated that there were already two artificial satellites orbiting the Earth. Now, they blew him off as a conspiracy theorist because at the time he was promoting a book. But one of these it came to be called the Black Knight because of its appearance. Okay. Again, you can offset what they will tell you is the conspiracy theory because one of the fallbacks against this so-called theory is that uh, it's basically a piece of space debris. That it's always been a piece of space debris. A piece of space debris that was somehow orbiting the Earth in a nearly perfect polar orbit before there was ever an artificial satellite orbiting the Earth. Do you follow me here? So, yes, of course, they're going to dismiss it as a conspiracy theory, and perhaps after you go down that rabbit hole and you do your own research, you may find it equally ridiculous. I leave that up to you. We are just opening the rabbit hole and suggesting that you take a little trip down and see what you may see. But Kehoe was also the guy that tied the appearance of this premier artificial satellite before there were artificial satellites into a rocketry program by the British, which I believe began in 1958. Ryan, fact check me on that. That was the Black Knight rocket program. Basically, there are a number of things you could either suggest that it is an alien spacecraft that has been observing us for a long, long time. There are traces of evidence that date back almost 13,000 years if we really want to look at the record and some of the obscure sky watchers over the course of human history. But it is either if you believe that it exists at all, it is either an alien spacecraft that has been watching us for a very, very long time, or either us or the Soviets were able to put something up well in advance of when it was acknowledged that we were able to put something up. Do you follow me on that? In the same sense that a lot of activity around Area 51 that has been chalked up to UFOs over the years. Turns out that you can make a perfectly reasonable case because Lockheed and Skunk Works run their proving ground out of the Groom Lake facility. So it's entirely possible that what could be UFO aircraft could just be experimental military aircraft. It's also entirely possible that the military aircraft is back engineered from captured alien spacecraft. Do you see how deep this thing fucking goes? Don't get too tangential with it. Try to stay focused. But I want you to look in and look, the first few search results that you're going to get are probably going to say Black Knight conspiracy theory or Black Knight amalgam of conspiracy theories, yada yada. Try to get past that, guys, and that's why I emphasize that at the beginning of this outlet, because they will always try to push it off as a conspiracy theory if the right documents haven't been declassified yet. Remember the SR-71 Superbird, that was fucking that was a conspiracy theory. Stealth bomber technology, conspiracy. We don't have aircraft that are invisible to radar. We certainly didn't design those aircraft with the aid of Nazi scientists brought over after World War II, and then they declassified paperclip and they had to admit all of it. So when you go in to looking at this Black Knight satellite, I want you to try to keep an open mind. I'm not asking that you give it your 100% belief, right? I would not suggest that you give your 100% belief to us landing on the moon in 1969, but since we're talking now about the Apollo program, Gordon Cooper, one of the Apollo astronauts, photographed, and this is one of the origins of the Black Knight shape of this piece of space debris, and we could go on. But Gordon Cooper, one of the Apollo astronauts, actually photographed this thing, and it's one of the earliest recorded photographs of that. You have astronomers from Scotland. You have, and again, this one in particular, look at it now because it's going to become a lot more clouded. Every single year, we put more and more stuff into space. Okay? Uh, Elon, my boy. I'm a little disappointed with him this week, but he's still my boy. Elon putting up those Starlink satellites. Moses, my boy in Montana, finally has internet connection thanks to these satellites that Elon is putting up. But every year we put more, whether it's weather, whether it's GPS, whether it's 5G technology, whether it's research probes, whether it's what the fuck ever, whether it's spy satellites, surveillance equipment. Every year we put more stuff in space. So every year this Black Knight satellite theory is going to get more and more obscure, more and more obscured, and more irrelevant, because it'll be easier and easier to chalk it up to a piece of space debris. There is so much debris floating in space right now. I mean, while you're on that Black Knight satellite, try another term: space debris in orbit around Earth. Try that. There's so much right now that the calculations get more and more difficult every probe that we put into fucking space to just dodge around this stuff. Do you know what the laws of physics do? Let's talk physics for a minute. This projectile, okay, launched from this piece of technology, is moving at about, because you're paying for good ammo, is moving between 1,100 and 1,300 feet per second. Imagine the damage that can do to a human body, right? That single projectile moving at 1,100 to 1,300 feet per second. Now picture something the size of, well, this would be a small piece of space debris, but something the size of like a desktop printer or an old Mac tower or, say, a 32-inch monitor. Picture something that size, just floating. And it collides with another object, and both of these, while one is stationary or has mild inertia and momentum, the other is moving at literally tens of thousands of feet per second, if not hundreds of thousands of feet per second. Do you see the physics that are at play with all the stuff that is floating around out there? So again, the problem with the Black Knight theory is that every year it becomes more and more obscured, and every year it becomes more and more irrelevant, because it's easier to chalk something up as space debris when there's so fucking much of it out there. But go down the rabbit hole. Take a look at what they may or may not have been hiding from you all of these years, and never assume that the conventional wisdom is correct. Keep in mind, once upon a time it was thought that the earth was flat. Once upon a time it was thought that the rest of the cosmos revolved around the earth. People had been put to death for suggesting otherwise. It's always a conspiracy theory until the official narrative collapses. And as we get into some other stuff that we're going to be talking about this week, that's going to become more and more relevant. There's so much now that spacewalking is dangerous. That is absolutely correct, Roman. When they do those free ball fucking out on the tether. Yes, yeah, Ryan. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention Dr. Kaku on that. I'm sorry. I had promised I was going to do that. Take a look. Right. Let me get over right there. See this doctor right here, Dr. Michio Kaku? Look him up in regard to the Black Knight theory. I'm sorry, Ryan, I went off on a tangent. I meant to get to that. But yeah, even when they're out on the tethers, spacewalking is dangerous because, again, just a little bit. I mean, imagine. We talked about the bullet, right? Right. We talked about the bullet. This little 115 grain 9mm projectile, or something of a similar size, a piece of random debris that looked something like the bottle cap off a ginger beer, just floating around in space and colliding with an astronaut who is moving tens of thousands of feet per second. Do you think that thick-ass spacesuit is going to have any effect on what that's going to do to a body. There's so much stuff out there, and it's pretty fucking terrifying. But anyway, that can all be tied in together. I want you guys to take a trip down that rabbit hole. That is your rabbit hole for the week, the Black Knight satellite. Take a look at that. Venture as far down the rabbit hole as you are comfortable. But I guarantee you it's going to shake you up. Some of this stuff is definitely going to make you reflect, and you're going to start questioning facets of the official narrative that you had more or less believed just by default for most of your adult life. But that's the beauty of the rabbit hole. It takes you out of that mainstream reality construct. Takes you down a little. What was it that it wasn't Terence McKenna, but well, Terence McKenna was one for sure, but Robert Anton Wilson in particular, who talked about reality tunnels. The good thing about the rabbit hole is the sidetrack from your reality tunnel. If you get too comfortable in that reality tunnel, suddenly anything outside of that reality tunnel seems repugnant to you, to certain areas of your brain. This is why cognitive dissonance is so strong in people. This is why confirmation bias is so strong in people. This is why no matter how much evidence is presented to people, when it is contrary to the opinion that they have adopted, particularly if they're dogmatic about that opinion, particularly when that opinion has become an article of faith for them, the less inclined they are to even examine the evidence, let alone reflect on it enough to have a change of opinion. I don't want to be hyperbolic and get to where we're puffing our own peckers about the significance of these rabbit holes, but that is part of what we're trying to do here. When we throw you the rabbit hole, sometimes it's funny and upbeat, sometimes it's light, sometimes it's dark as fuck. But the thing with guys like myself and guys like Brother Ryan, we have been yanked forcibly out of reality tunnels, right, over the course of our life, by circumstances that we either placed ourselves in or circumstances that were thrust upon us by the reality of our life. So we've had plenty of chances to get yanked out and reflect. Not everybody has that opportunity. And so it's easier for people that don't. What is it? I think a good way to put it would be an old maxim of mine. It's one of those old Bardisms. People who are shocked easily should be shocked often. Okay? You'll find with personality types like myself and with Brother Ryan and with Chief. I see you out there, buddy. You're like nodding along. I see you. The things that they're exposed to over the course of their life, after a while you become unshockable, right? You may get hit with something that will shock you, and you may be shocked, right? But what you won't be is surprised, okay? Because you have seen so much stuff outside of that reality tunnel that at some point it no longer, you might get hit with something out of the blue where you're like, dude, what the fuck, right? But it's not going to freeze you up like a deer in the headlights, because yeah, that was really fucking weird, but you've probably seen weirder or close to it. So again, not to puff our own peckers about what we try to do with the rabbit hole, but we want to shake people out of their reality tunnels a little bit, and get them thinking outside what their conventional wisdom would have them used to. So hopefully we succeed at that. Some weeks I'm sure we do better than others. Some weeks you probably think, Jesus, why do I hang out with these fucking retards? What do we got? I believe the moon landing happened, but the video is fake. Something in the original they didn't want us to see. That's another fascinating possibility, and we may even make a rabbit hole out of that. Who knows? Don't take that fork at the Nibiru sign. Speaking of obscure references, well done, Dennis. Well done. Okay, so having covered the rabbit hole, guys, in the opener, I called out a couple of people that again, it it was almost mandatory. I felt compelled, um, by my own sense of uh, by my own sense of integrity, by my own sense of consistency. Um, you guys know that there are two things that I strive for, and because I am human, sometimes I fail. But I strive after two things as if it were a spiritual path. One is intellectual honesty, okay? The other is ideological consistency. Yes, Zechariah Sitchin for the win. We can do that one. We can definitely do that one. The only problem there, Ryan, is going to be narrowing it down to like one fucking facet of his ancient aliens research. I mean, like, how do you narrow down? Sitchin's got such a broad base of. We'll talk. Sitchin's got such a broad base, it's going to be tough to narrow it down because otherwise we could spend a whole program on it. And I'm not actually averse to spending a whole program on it. Um, I'm at the might raise one eyebrow but not both stage of life. Yep, Chief. I know. See, that's why I thought of you in the middle of that rant. I was like, if there's one guy out here who could definitely relate to what we're saying. Um, in any case, as I was saying, what I strive for is ideological consistency and intellectual honesty. And that means that I have to call out the people when they butt up against a principle of mine. I have to call out people, even people that I revere. You guys know the way that I feel about Elon, and you guys have given me, a due amount of shit for it, and I'll accept that. Um, I think he really fucked up. I think he really fucked up this week. The whole impetus for him buying Twitter was to keep it a free speech platform. Doing what he's doing, he is already wide the fuck open for criticism. Now, being Elon fucking Musk, the richest man on the planet, criticism doesn't mean a whole fucking lot to him. He's got I don't have to give a fuck money, and that's perfectly okay. Um, Here I am calling him out for criticism, but he's Elon Musk, and I, by extension, am not. But from me to you, I think what he did to Kathy Griffin was the wrong call. Uh, the right call, if Twitter would have had any sort of integrity and Twitter would have had any sort of consistency, the minute she did what she did with that severed head thing, was it protected speech? Yeah, it absolutely was. I maintain that. Uh, Kathy Griffin is a despicable human being. Just a whiny, shrill, double standard pushing leftist mouthpiece fucking shill. Just a horrible, despicable human being. But if you don't protect the right to freedom of speech for those who you find detestable, then you don't give a fuck about it at all. What she did was shitty. But what she did, in my opinion, did not rise to the level of incitement. It made it perfectly clear how she felt about Darth Cheeto holding up that fucking severed head. You don't get to do shit like that and be like, oh, sorry, just joking, when you get called on it. Again, I'm compelled by principle, and Chief and I got into this discussion right at the end of the sermon last week. We're compelled by principle to protect the right to freedom of speech and other constitutional principles for others, even if they won't return the favor. I guarantee you that if some conservative comedian, let's say, find me a conservative comedian, Tim Allen, all right? Let's say Tim Allen would have shown up holding a mask, simulating a severed head of Joe Biden within a week of the election. That same Kathy Griffin demanding her freedom of speech would have been calling for Tim Allen's fucking real head. Okay? This is what you're dealing with. Having said that, still the wrong move. Still the wrong move to ban her from the platform. Why did he ban her from the platform? Not for anything that she did. With regard to the severed head thing or anything that she tweeted. He banned her from the platform, and I think what it's going to wind up being is, again, this hit right before I went to air. So the information that's floating out there says that she's permanently suspended. I think what it's going to wind up being is a temporary suspension, a little slap on the wrist, and then going to let her go back to being her shrill little self. But she basically changed her account and impersonated Elon. Basically changed her handle, changed her profile pic and everything, and basically was tweeting as if she were Elon Musk, advocating leftist causes and things for women just days out from the election. Now, again, if a Republican would have done some shit like that, that same Kathy Griffin would have been calling election interference. It's like Bongino is always saying, this is not hypocrisy, this is hierarchy. They're in charge, you're not, shut up. Okay? But trying to maintain some kind of principle, it was a bad move to cut her loose. I think it was a very bad move to cut her loose. Now, if it turns out it was only a temporary suspension, a little disciplinary thing, then more power to him. It was the right call. So again, I'm talking out my ass right now because my mouth doesn't know any better. I had very limited information going in, but I felt the need to address it. And I've got to address Darth Cheeto's little rally yesterday. You guys know that I don't deify Trump in any way, shape, or form. I have to give credit where credit is due, but I have to call bullshit when bullshit is bullshit. And Trump's little dig at DeSantis yesterday, 3 to 4 days out from the fucking midterms. You fucking moron. Jesus Christ. Again, got to call it right when he gets it right. His policy decisions when he was in office, he took us to energy independence. He had the economy roaring. He had removed shit tons of regulations. He had the border under control. He did a lot of great things when he was president. Sorry, can't take that away from him. But damn it, you fucking moron. It's obvious what he was doing. He was basically he was putting a shot across DeSantis' bow going into 2024. Basically a dick wagging contest. Okay? And in spite of what you may have heard, people in the know in New York City, Trump's packing. Okay? So all your little jokes about baby hands, go fuck yourself. Basically, this was a dick wagging contest, and this was Trump whipping his shit out in front and going, look, dude, I'm the candidate. Don't fucking roach up. Which is fine to send as a message. It's the timing. Disanctimonious in the middle of a rally 4 days before the midterms, where literally the balance of power hangs in balance. Democracy is not on the ballot, okay? Free speech is not on the ballot. Abortion, it's not on the ballot. The balance of power, however, is. And it's razor fucking thin, and we're lucky to be as close as we are. Is it still going to be a red wave in my estimation? Yes. And again, I'm saying it here on video. You guys can come back and call me on it later. Whether it was right, whether it was wrong. Doesn't matter. I stand accountable. But god damn it, Donald. What the fuck were you thinking? It's that kind of recklessness that makes me totally not sympathetic, but when people talk shit about the man, it's like, yeah, I get it. Dude, I totally get it. Oh, you hate the motherfucker? You think he's a hothead? You think he's hair triggered? Yeah, I get it. I totally get it. This is why I just can't, even to this day. I did not support him in 2016. I did not vote for him in 2016. I sat that election out. I hated Hillary with the burning fire of 1,000 suns, but I was not convinced that Trump was any better an alternative. I sat it out. Did not vote. Between 2016 and 2020, policy-wise, he completely won me over. I can't tell you the number of times I wanted to take that red tie and just throttle his ass and just be like, Don, you need to just shut the fuck up, okay? Do your policies, sign your bills, get out there, make your speeches, but this, and this, shut the fuck up. maybe damage his thumbs a little bit, make him incapable of tweeting. But policy wise, the man won me over on a lot of fucking levels. Yes, there were fuck ups. He bombed Syria. Fucking stupid. You know, he sanctioned Russia while they were calling him Putin's puppet. He sanctioned the fuck out of Russia. Bad move. But he did pull arms sales out of Ukraine. Good move. You see, this is all self regulating. But man, that was fucked up. That was a fucked up move. And again, he's Donald Trump, and I, by extension, am not, so it doesn't matter. I'm a very small man. I'm a crane operator with some opinions. But I got to throw that out for the sake of my own integrity so you guys know where the fuck I stand. I think Elon was absolutely wrong to call Kathy Griffin and to pull her account. Hopefully that'll be a temporary thing. I'm really, really hoping that'll be a temporary thing. But Trump's move was fucking irresponsible. Absolutely fucking irresponsible. If you want to take a look at Elon's thing, you can look up, in fact, Kathy Griffin is trending right now, which, again, bad move. Why are you going to give this fucking hack a spotlight? You think you would learn the lesson. From the Democrats. That every time you put the focus on something in a negative light, it just gives it attention. This is a lesson that we have gradually been learning from Democrats over the course of the last since 2016, right? Cancel culture, for all the successes that it's had in ruining smaller people's lives, the bigger people that it tries to take on, it does nothing but steer traffic in their direction. They tried to cancel Rogan. How'd that work out? They tried to cancel Chappelle. How did that work out? They tried to cancel Trump. How did that work out? Right? They've tried to cancel Daily Wire for how fucking long? They tried to cancel Bongino. How'd that work out? It's just simple enough. It's a simple enough principle to understand. Just let them do their thing. Quietly ding her account, give her a little 72-hour kick in the cunt, and say, look, lady, you can't be impersonating people. This is the new rule, right? If you don't put the word parody in your account and you're impersonating people, you're going to be booted. Give her a warning, and then shut the fuck up about it. It's worked out great for AOC. AOC is barking like the little fucking Mexican dog that she is. Sandy, all right, wannabe Mexican dog that she is. Sandy, Puerto Rican, right, got it. Okay, fine. Racist, fuck off. AOC is a barking little fucking chihuahua, and fucking Elon's just taking shots at her. SWAT, go away. SWAT, go away. SWAT, go away. He overplayed his hand with Kathy Griffin, and now he's got positive attention focused on it, and now he's validated all the criticism about him squashing free speech on the left. But again, I hope I'm wrong. This is early on. I'm going here triggered right now. I just wanted you guys to know where I stand on it going into it. So here's something else I'm about to fucking stand on. I'm about to stand on the fucking heads of a whole lot of the fucking Vaxx Nazi crowd. You guys know the drill. The Vaxx Nazis, the mask Stasi, hashtag Stasi Karen. This rolled in the Atlantic this week. Not even making this up. Emily Oster. Let's declare a pandemic amnesty. If you had doubted, boys and girls, where it was headed, if you had doubted that their narrative was completely falling apart, I want you to ponder for a split second how badly it already had to have fallen for us to be at this point right here. For them to be calling Ollie oxen free. Please forgive us for all the things that we did when we were in the dark about COVID. Ponder that for a minute. They legit expect you to forgive and forget, roll over and play fucking dead. Yeah. I'm glad. I'm looking at this. Yeah, guys, I'm not going to address every single comment, but I like the dialogue going on over here in the comments because I think we're all on about the same page. You know, uh, you love the message, you just hate who the fuck, you just hate who and how it's being delivered. Particularly to take a jab at DeSantis because I'm going to tell you something, guys, early on, and I know it's way early to be making calls like this, but DeSantis is my boy going into 2024. I'm sorry, but there it is. Um, if they put any actual conservative up to and including Darth Cheeto, I think it's the worst fucking move they could make. But if they put any actual conservative up for a run, I will support him and I will vote for him. But if given my preference, DeSantis is my boy. And I'm really, really interested in the run up to 2024 to see what Kari Lake does when, and let me repeat, when she wins in Arizona. I'm very interested to see what that woman does. Because when it comes to dealing with the mainstream press, that woman is a fucking assassin. Anyway, sidetrack. Got off the bullet point. Bullet point was the COVID amnesty. Let me see if I've got this straight. You were talking about a group of people. They want amnesty. They want amnesty. Oh, it was a long time ago. It was a long time ago, and we were in the dark about it. Nobody really knew. As it turns out, a lot of people knew. As it turns out, a lot of reputable people knew. As it turns out, a lot of reputable, credentialed, bona fides, unquestionable individuals knew and tried to warn you. And a lot of us lesser mortals, while you were screaming, follow the science, and reading none of the science, you weren't following the science, you were following the fucking television. You picked your side. You guys are the same ones that like to think of yourselves as the fucking saviors, as the quote-unquote resistance. We would have hidden. Oh man, I just know I would have hidden Jews in my basement, man. I would have hidden Jews in my basement. I would have joined the resistance. I would have fought all that. Go fuck yourself. Go fuck yourself, you fucking shills. You showed us exactly who you are. You were the ones that when the Stasi showed up at the house, the refugees are hiding under the dining room floor. That's where they are. That when the Schutzstaffel came by and knocked on the door, oh, the Jews are in the attic. The Jews are in the attic. Did I say Jews? Because I meant the unvaxxed. The unvaxxed are hiding in the attic. Go give them their jab. We tried to tell them. We've been terrified. Robert Anton Wilson, who I quoted earlier. Why is it that the compliant always consider themselves virtuous rather than cowardly? By the way, if you want a perspective shifting book that has nothing to do with this political stuff, Robert Anton Wilson, Prometheus Rising. Okay? Everybody should have Robert Anton Wilson in their fucking library. That's just me. What do I know? Back to it. It was a long time ago. It's a long time ago. Was it? We're still in 2022, aren't we? I mean, we're at the ass end of 2022. But it's still the same fucking year, isn't it? November 2022. So I started digging a little bit. And there were some that were even more recent than this. But this was the poll that was most recent and most damning. This was from January 13th of this year. Back when our cadaver in chief was talking about it would be a long, cold winter of misery and death for the unvaccinated. You know, because it was still a pandemic of the unvaccinated. Anyone who even remotely paid attention that wasn't inordinately driven by fear had this figured out from the door. We tried desperately to tell you, and you went deeper and deeper and deeper because the glowing box told you to. That's why. That's why you did. But from January of this year, ponder that shit. Let me get this here. Sorry, I just needed to reopen a window. From January of this year, a poll. The other part of the gaslighting that they will try to pass along to you is that mistakes were made on both sides. We were all in the dark. Nobody really knew. Nobody could have told us. Yeah, but we were the side that wasn't forcing something on someone else. Never in the course of human history have the people forcing compliance been the good guys. Ever. Ever. That has never happened. This idea that we're pushing, it's so great that we're going to force you to adopt it. Those people have never been the good guys. They've been the Nazis. They've been the Soviets. Historical nuances. I can already hear a couple of you out there going, well, you know, you think... No, stop. Stop. For the sake of discussion, okay? Forcing people into compliance, you're not the fucking good guys. This was a Rasmussen poll. Heartland Institute and Rasmussen Reports National Telephone and Online Survey finds that 48% of voters, and that's conservatives as well, but they favor President Joe Biden's plan to impose a vaccine mandate on the employees of large companies and government agencies. 33% strongly favor the mandate. 48% are opposed to Biden's vaccine mandate, including 40% who strongly oppose the mandate. So the opposition was a lot stronger. But here's how it breaks down along party lines. 78% of Democratic voters supported the COVID-19 vaccine plan. Only 22% of Republicans. And only 41% of voters not affiliated with either party. 78% Democratic voters supported the vaccine mandates. 22% of Republicans. Are you seeing how this breaks down? After 2 excruciatingly long years, likely voters are beginning to question the federal government's handling of the pandemic, says the senior editor and research fellow. But this gets better. "75% of Democratic voters had a favorable opinion of Dr. Fauci. 48% of Democratic voters, that's nearly half. Think about your next door neighbor. Yeah, I mean, he's Democrat, but we're cool. No, you're not. No, you're not. Or it's a coin toss if you are or not. 48% of Democratic voters think federal and state governments should be able to fine or imprison individuals who publicly question the efficacy of the vaccines. That was in January of this year, when those of us who could see the forest for the trees were already saying, dude, it doesn't prevent transmission. Dude, this is bullshit. You could be booted off of social media platforms for even suggesting that the vaccines weren't safe and efficacious as all get out. And 48% of Democratic voters, your neighbor, your family member, 48% of Democratic voters think federal and state government should be able to fine or imprison you for questioning it. Not even for refusing it, for questioning it, for posting something to Facebook going, I've looked at it and it just doesn't seem like this is very effective. It doesn't seem like it's preventing transmission at all. Something that now we know unequivocally. But at the time, in the course of the fear, in the course of the emergency, we have to do it for the emergency. And it's only for the sake of the emergency. And once the emergency passes, they'll give us our rights back. Say the fucking grazers that have never opened a history book. 59% of Democratic voters would favor a government policy requiring that citizens remain confined to their homes at all times, except for emergencies, if they refuse to get the vaccine. That's better than half. That Democrat family member, that Democrat neighbor, that's less than a coin toss of whether or not he would turn you over to the fucking Stasi. Are you following me? Are you tracking here? That's just how serious this is. We're lucky that we got through with a dry run. But if you think you're pals with that guy, you're not. That's less than a coin toss. He would turn you over to Big Brother, to the Stasi, to the Politburo, to the Gestapo, to the Schutzstaffel. All because you had the temerity to disagree. All because you had the sheer audacity and gall to not be driven by fear in your every fucking life decision. Are you tracking? You feel me? That's just how serious this is. Nothing less at stake. 58% would fine you or imprison you. That not serious enough? Okay, 59% say that they would willingly place you under house arrest, locked in your own home, unable to leave except in case of emergency. Well, that's not enough? That's not enough? That's not serious enough for you? Okay. All right. How about this? 45%, again, we're right there at a fucking coin toss. We're within a hair's breadth of a coin toss. 45% of Democrats. This was January of this year, people. Would favor governments requiring citizens to temporarily live in designated facilities or locations. Oh, wow. So 48%, coin toss, said that they should be able to fine or imprison you for questioning it. 59% said that you should be placed under house arrest, and damn near a coin toss, 45%. Said that you should be put in a gulag or a prison camp for refusing to take a jab. This was January of this year. "47% favored a government tracking program, including digital devices to track the unvaccinated. Again, it's a coin toss. And when you look at what's at stake, well, coin toss isn't good. Fully half of Democratic voters, that's your neighbor, that's your coworker, that's your so-called friend, that's your family member who voted for Joe Biden. Flip a coin. Heads, he's a decent human being. Tails, he'll send you to the gulag. Heads, he's a decent human being. Tails, he'll have you locked up under house arrest, digitally tracked, consistently down the line in this Rasmussen poll. January of this year. Ponder that. Oh, but the gulag isn't serious enough for you? Okay. So, that coin toss to either, have you under house arrest or sent to a gulag or fined or put in prison for questioning the vaccines. 29%. Feel free to look up this survey, by the way. Rasmussen. I'll give you the address here in a second. But if none of those stakes are serious enough for you, 29%. That's almost a third, just shy of a third, said that they would support temporarily removing parents' custody of their children if they refuse to get themselves and the children vaccinated. Now, it's sickening to me that there are any Republicans who would have supported any of these things. But across the board, everyone that I've listed, it's 19% of Republicans, 17% of Republicans would have supported those same measures. And that's horrifying, and that's disgusting. But let's not act like everybody was in the dark, and let's not act that like everybody was equally driven by fear, and let's not act like everyone equally presents an existential threat to your fucking freedom. Let's not look like, well, everyone had a chance of fucking turning you into the Stasi or the Gestapo or the Schutzstaffel or the Politburo or the KGB or the GRU. Pick your authoritarian murder machine. That is across the board fully half of Democrats. Half. So that person that you think you're cool with, as recently as January of this year, they were ready to put you in a prison camp. They were ready to have your children taken away. And now they want to come with this? Oh, I just feel so silly. I just feel so silly. You guys fans of the Twilight Zone? The old one? There was an old episode of the Twilight Zone, which, if memory serves, was called The Shelter. Really spoke to me in my youth, being the young prepper survival nut that I was coming up. Being as obsessed with all things Cold War and nuclear as I was, that episode really spoke to me. It's about neighbors that had a shelter. They had a bomb shelter. And an alert comes over the radio that they're under attack. And they go down into their shelter. Same neighbors have been making fun of them. Ha 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 ha. You guys are so stupid. You got a fucking bomb shelter. Well, now here's the emergency. And the neighbors predictably did what humans would really do in a situation like that. They became bestial. They became completely unhinged. Murderous. And then, at the end of the episode, that twist ending that Twilight Zone was famous for, turns out the radio broadcast had been in error. That there was no bombing raid. There was no emergency. And now you got these neighbors having shown themselves for exactly who they are under pressure when it counts. They were ready to murder these people to get access to that shelter. They were ready to tear the door off the place and steal their fucking supplies. They were ready to do anything to assuage their unpreparedness for their fear. And motivated entirely by fear and a misguided sense of entitlement, but primarily fear. They did what humans could be expected to do under circumstances like that. But after they've shown themselves for who they are, not even in that Twilight Zone episode did any of them have the audacity to say, hey, we're really sorry, forgive, forget, huh? They just walked off in silence. I think the Vaxx Nazis And the masked Stasi would be a lot better served just walking off in fucking silence than to come at us with something like this. And if you make the conscious decision, as is your right, to forgive and forget, I envy your humanity. I envy your misplaced optimism, but you deserve exactly what you fucking get on the next round. You deserve exactly what you fucking get on the next round. I've never had any illusions about it. I know, like the back of my hand, I could list 10 people right now that are on my Facebook friends list that follow me on fucking social media that would gladly turn me over to the Stasi. It's too late for me, man. I'm not staying off the fucking radar. But you might not have that high profile. Extricate these people from your fucking lives. I cannot believe the temerity of that. I absolutely cannot believe the temerity of that. Once again, a full coin toss. Of Democrats across the board were ready to put you in prison camps, were ready to place you under house arrest, and a full 30% were ready to take your children away from you. Because you were less afraid than they are. This is who they are, people. This is who they are. Ignore that shit at your own fucking peril. No, that's not useless trivia, actually, Ryan. That's not useless trivia at all. Um, not only was she instrumental in making that happen, she was instrumental for launching Rod Serling, period. And Rod Serling was a brilliant fucking man. If you can ever find that interview from the 60s, Mike Wallace interviewing Rod Serling, dude was decades ahead of his time. Brilliant motherfucker. I just love him. The chain smoking through the whole fucking interview. Submitted for your approval. A man who is sure to die of lung cancer, but does a television show which always ends in bizarre twists. Tonight, on the Twilight Zone. Yeah, so, I know it's piss poor Rod Serling, man, but I was on short notice. Yeah, Star Trek 2. You were absolutely correct. Speaking of showing their true colors, did you see Bill Maher raging about voting Democrat so we don't lose our democracy this week? Damn it, Dennis, you are king of the segue, brother. Let me get to this from the chief. I consider myself solid, but I'm not that forgiving and forgetting guy they're looking for. Nor am I, my friend. Nor am I. I will never forget who these people are. Forgiveness is relative, right? Like never venture more than you're willing to lose kind of forgiveness. There are people who are in my circle of friends who got themselves vaxxed, some of whom don't even regret it. Like, I'll say this for Bongino. Bongino owns the fact that he acted out of fear and got himself vaxxed early, and it's one of the dumbest decisions of his fucking life. You got to give the guy props. Because he caught 9 miles of shit when it happened. He was in the middle of a fucking cancer scare. So, yeah, he got vaxxed. He was immunocompromised. He was acting on the best information he had at the time. He was panicked. But he wouldn't do it under any other circumstances. You got to give credit where credit is due. There are people in my circle who did get vaxxed, right? There remains no one in my circle who was berating people for not getting vaxxed. There is no one in my circle who favored vaccine mandates, because I simply will not allow it. You guys know what this is an overshare, and this is probably an exceedingly poor taste. But welcome to Planet Bart. Nothing out of character for me there. My wife, healthcare professional on the front lines of this COVID thing from the very fucking beginning. She thought that the vaccines were a good idea. She continues to maintain that within given parameters, they were a good idea for people who were immunocompromised, for people who were elderly, for people who had comorbidities. We vehemently disagree even on that point. But if she had stepped to me at any point during the pandemic or since and advocated for the mandates, she would have been unceremoniously and summarily cut from my fucking life. And I say that without a shred of exaggeration or hyperbole or a melodrama. We disagree on a fuck ton of things. Always have. And we've made allowances for that. But there are some lines in the sand. If she ever came out for a government mandate for vaccines, I'd be gone. Just that quick. Not a word spoken. Thankfully, it didn't come to that. let me ease everybody down, because right now everybody's kind of like biting their nails. Like, bro, you good? You straight? Houston, you straight? You straight? Yeah, I'm straight, man. I'm straight. She never berated anybody for not getting the vaccine. Certainly didn't berate me for not getting the vaccine. Was 100% understanding about my objections and the reasons for my objections and my refusal. 100% backed me when I had just started the gig with Flynn, building the data center for Facebook. Flynn had decided that they would not require their employees to get vaccinated, but then the actual project was considering whether or not it was going to force people to get vaccinated because it was a research center we were building for Facebook. And Meta sent everything up the food chain and said, hey, see how your employees feel about that. And it was a good gig, and I had just gotten on for it. But me and my entire crew let our supervisor know that if a vaccine mandate comes down the line, we fucking walk. And I was unequivocal about that. Because even at that time, I could always get work in Texas. I could always get work in Florida. I'm a crane operator, motherfucker. I can lay you off. By the way, Ryan, thanks. It feels so good to be able to say that, doesn't it? Isn't that just like something? Bitch, I'll lay you off. Anyway. Point being is this. She backed me 100%. I told her, I was like, look, dude, they come down with this vaccine mandate. I'm going to be in Texas. I'm going to be in Texas. She backed me in that. She has been 100% supportive. And again, she is a medical professional. So you have to take into account that a lot of her opinions are going to be colored by the information that she is constantly having thrust upon her and the people with whom she is surrounded. And I give a good wide berth for that. She has her best information, we have ours. She's never advocated for a mandate, and she's never pushed for vaccines for the general population. People who are immunocompromised, people with comorbidities, and the elderly. That's it. And we've had some head-ups over the vaccine. I'll spare the details, but we've had some heated discussions. But the point is this. Anyone who is still in your life right now that berated someone else for not getting the vaccine, or how about this one? Man, will you just stop being dramatic, shut up, put your fucking mask on? Anybody who ever said that over the course of the pandemic, if they are still part of your circle, you deserve everything you fucking get. Did I wear a mask during the pandemic? Yeah, there were times that I wore a mask during the pandemic. Absolutely. Right? That kind of moral puritanism, making the decision to do that so I could get my hip surgery. Because Oregon still under lockdown at that point, by the way. Yeah, I put a fucking mask on so I could get my hip replaced. That was a trade-off I was willing to make. There were some parts of some states that at the height of the panic literally would not let you in to a Walmart to shop for food unless you put a fucking mask on. And in some of those jurisdictions, law enforcement had their fucking backs. You literally didn't have a choice. That kind of stuff can be forgiven. That kind of stuff I will be willing to give amnesty to. But the people who jumped in with the fucking mob, I will never forget. I will never forget. And as I was saying earlier, forgiveness is relative. It's like, yeah, okay, I'm gonna let it go. I'm gonna let it go. But don't ever fucking talk to me about this again. I'm gonna let it go. But don't ever invite me to a fucking family function again. I'm gonna let it go. But don't ever fucking keep my name out your mouth because we ain't that close anymore. That kind of thing. Forgiveness is relative. I don't have to spend a whole lot of my energy. This is the thing about forgiveness, and it's something that I'm learning on my life's journey. You know what I mean? Forgiveness, the carrying a grudge. What is a grudge? A grudge is taking poison, hoping the other guy's gonna fucking die, right? Grudge is like a bag of bricks, man. All you got to do is set it down. All you got to do is set it down. And I'm setting it down. I don't wish any ill will on these people. I'm not going to go out of my way to ruin their life again. It's the thing about being principled, right, Chief? Even if they wouldn't return the courtesy. After all that fucking time of them literally trying to ruin people's lives for having the audacity to not live their life in fear, I'm not going to go out of my way to ruin their life. They're not worth the effort. I just recognize them. I keep them at arm's length, and they are as dead to me as they had previously wished I was just dead. Simple as that. So fuck your amnesty. I will forgive you when Vietnam veterans forgive Jane Fonda. I will forgive you when Jews forgive that Austrian with the funny mustache. Do not come scratching at my door looking for forgiveness. You will not find pain. You will not find vengeance. What you will find is absolute indifference. Because that is what the opposite of love is. Indifference. That's why when people like this, I would argue that COVID does kill some of the right people. The unvaccinated are dying in droves. Yes, it's sad about Kavanaugh. Sudden death of cardiac arrest. What's the number one vaccine adverse effect that's been reported? Oh yeah, cardiac symptoms, right. The vaccine she wanted for everybody. She died of sudden death from cardiac arrest at the age of 49 after battling what? After battling COVID. Wow. So, take the vaccine or we'll lock you in a prison camp. Well, how'd that work out for you, lady? You took the vax. I imagine probably double vaxxed and probably double boosted. Oh, and you died of a heart attack. A side effect directly related to the fucking vaccine on a level never seen before in the history of vaccines. You died of a heart attack after getting COVID anyway. Wow. How fucking bizarre is that? But when I talk about the opposite of love being indifference, not hate, hate is looking at that woman and going, man, I hope her kids had to watch, and I hope her husband fucking got left bankrupt, and all this, that's hate. I don't have room for hate. I look at this bitch, I look at her tweets, and I go, wow, the world lost another food critic. I just felt the world get lighter. Speaking of, who's buying breakfast? That's the way we need to be with these people. You don't need to be hateful, just completely fucking indifferent. You people are scum. You're vile. You're beneath contempt. I hate like fuck that I have to share a planet with you and let you breathe my fucking oxygen. Fuck's given in the negatives, right, Chief? The VA still requires masks. A lot of hospitals do, David. In fact, most hospitals and healthcare facilities are still requiring masks as a matter of their own fucking protocols, even if they're in states that don't do it. I can't speak for anybody in Texas. Dennis or Ryan, maybe you could hit me to that if they are still. Well, Ryan, well, fuck, because you were just there. So Ryan had to drift through and talk to, and yeah, the mask is still required for like healthcare facilities, like if you go in to see a doctor or something. Even though Texas and Florida long ago dropped their mask mandates and all the other stuff. So yeah, man, if the healthcare facilities are still requiring it, that's something that okay, cool. I mean, that's par for the course. But you let a bitch at Walmart try to tell me I can't come in and shop for fucking groceries, right? Thank you, Ryan. Yeah, I remember that like right after I said something. I remembered you sent me the picture. Um, but you let a bitch at a Walmart tell me that I can't shop for groceries without putting a fucking diaper on my face? Go fuck yourself. I'll push you to the side. Because here in Eastern Washington, nobody gives a shit anymore. You're going to call the cops? Yeah, cool, man. They got bigger shit to worry about. Spray that, Karen. Right. By the way, hi, Greg. Good to see you on board, man. Um, so, yeah, fuck your amnesty. I will forgive you when the Jews forgive Hitler. Simple as that. In the meantime, I will keep you pushed off to the side. In fact, I won't even demand reparations. I won't even demand compensation. The only thing that I require from the Vaxx Nazis and the masked Stasi and the Stasi Karens, the only thing I require from you is your fucking absence. Your absence and your silence. Shut the fuck up. Stay the fuck away from me. And we're good. Real simple. But getting back to the segue, getting back to the segue that Dennis set off. Speaking of showing your true colors, did you see Bill Maher raging about voting Democrat so we don't lose our democracy this week? That was actually the next bullet point, Dennis. Um, what have we heard from these people? This is how desperate they are going in. They are looking at, in spite of their best efforts, at malfeasance, and you know it's coming. All right, let's not kid ourselves. Are they going to try? Yeah. Are they going to be successful in some places like California and Illinois? Yeah, probably. I think there's a very good chance that Christine Drazan is going to get robbed in Oregon. There's a very good chance of that happening because she's ahead right now. She's stomping the fuck out of Tina Kotek. Sorry. She's stomping the fuck out of Tina Kotek, particularly by Oregon standards. She's ahead on points, still in the single digits, right? And Greg, I know you've been watching that race closely. Because fucking being in Portland, goddamn. Kate Brown is the most disastrous governor that Oregon has ever had. And Tina Kotek is her basically second in command. Oregon is hard left, particularly west of the Cascades where all the numbers are. It's Portland, man. It's Portland, it's PDX. That's where all the numbers are. That's where all the people are. That's where all the maggots are. But they have the numbers. They carry the state. And yet, Christine Drazan, hardcore conservative, doing better than Tina Kotek. Are they going to fucking mess with some stuff there? Yes. Are they going to attempt to cheat? Yes. Is there going to be malfeasance? Yes. Is there a chance it could be successful in Oregon? And Christine Drazan get robbed? Yes. It's entirely possible. Right here, we've got Smiley running for Senate. Beautiful. Super hot. But Smiley's running for Senate here in Washington, and she's doing fantastic. I've watched her debate performances. She is, according to the polls, within striking distance, which is mass media way of saying she's several points ahead. Washington's voting system is 100% vote by mail. Will there be fraud? Definitely. Is there a chance that Smiley could get robbed? Yeah, could happen. So expect malfeasance, expect attempts at malfeasance, expect some of them to be successful. But in spite of all of that, the surge is too big. The anger is too high. They simply won't have the numbers to overcome the rage that people are experiencing. And where they are successful in their theft, it's just going to highlight what we already knew about them, and it's just going to shake more mainstream liberals off the fence and over to our side going into 2024. I'm saying all these things publicly because I want to be held accountable. If I wind up being wrong on any of this stuff, I expect you guys to rip into me next week with both hands. I would expect nothing less. Well, Joey, you're right. No one should be surprised, but as we were talking earlier, that is the difference between shock and surprise. If they try and if they are very successful and wind up screwing all of us, I will be shocked. But let me state for the record that what I will not be is surprised. Okay? I'm not naive about this, Joey. You know this about me. I'm not naive. I am reluctantly optimistic, but I'm not naive. Problem is, non-progressives are generally decent people, so we are unlikely to revolt. Well, say that, and that's correct. But the further they push, and the further they push, and the further they push, even decent people have got their limits. Even a sheep, I don't mean a Democrat voter, but like a literal four-legged sheep, like the wool and stuff, will come out chunking if it's backed into a corner. A sheep will fucking fight. And we are far from fucking sheep. So every time they push and every time that they get away with it, they get one step closer to getting their wish. And that is for us to be how they have described us. Violent, confrontational, combative. We didn't pick the fight. We're just better at it than they are. And without the power of a state behind them, or even with the power of a state behind them, you have to understand, if you are an authoritarian regime, you got your attack dogs, you got the cops, you got the military, and I've already told you I think the military will break on the side of the people, but even leaving that aside, you have your attack dogs, but your attack dogs are 2 paychecks away from joining the fucking rebellion if you're not able to feed them. Okay? So in the final analysis, we win, Joey. That's just my thought. Again, that's just our forbearance is a weakness that they will exploit until they can't anymore. Yeah, we're totally agreed, Joey. They will push it until they can't push it. And then God help them. The red wave is coming. Greg, I couldn't agree more. I think it's coming, and I think it's coming in numbers that even they couldn't have possibly anticipated. It's one thing to try to sell us that a cadaver who never left his basement got 81 million votes. It's one thing to try to sell us that this same cadaver got more black votes in Detroit than either of the 2 terms of the first black president. That's what we're expected to believe. And if not, we're an election denier and we are a threat to democracy, which of course gets me back to the point we're headed into. Democracy is on the ballot. That's a nice way of saying if you don't vote the way we say you should, then it's not a democracy. It's only a democracy when we win. That is the final analysis of what that statement represents. It's only a democracy if we win. The problem with that is that for you to vote, you have to exercise a choice. That is the part about it being a participatory democracy, a representative government, a constitutional republic, if we are on it. But democracy, okay, you understand. Right. The military is less a threat for no other reason they are 100% Bolsheviks. Well, and the ones that aren't will break ranks very, very quickly, won't they? And then the only ones who will be left fighting for the regime are the Bolsheviks that they have cultivated. Tip of the hat to Sonny. Yep. Democracy only if the Democrats win. It's in the name, duh. See, we're anti-fascist. It's in the name, dude. Democracy is on the ballot. Yeah, these are the same people who, when Biden won, said that we had avoided fascism, said that we had overcome fascism. Here's a little historical fact for you, Sparky. It's not fascism if you can vote your way out of it. Are you tracking? These same people who said that we had voted ourselves out of fascism are now insisting that the only way it remains a democracy is if they win. This is Orwell word games, people. This is Orwell word games, nothing else. They play it all the time. They manipulate the actual things that we're having conversations about. Black Lives Matter as a factual statement, and they equate that to Black Lives Matter, the Marxist bullshit political movement. If you criticize one, you are criticizing the other. If we call ourselves Antifa, then if you oppose us, you must be fa. We call ourselves anti-fascist. If you oppose us, you must be fascist by default. That's the only way. We are Democrats. We support democracy. And unless you vote for us, you oppose democracy. Democracy is on the ballot. Democracy is on the ballot. Democracy isn't on the fucking ballot. Because if democracy falls, or if democracy rises, yes, I realize they voted Hitler into power. Okay? They voted Hitler into power. They voted the Nazis into power. You will know when you were living under authoritarianism, because it will not be something that you were able to vote your way out of. And if we are looking at the likelihood, because it's just as likely one side or the other during their next tenure of power makes that move. The Democrats would love to have you believe that us mainstream Republicans want to turn this place into the Republic of Gilead out of the fucking Handmaid's Tale. Nothing could be further from the truth. We were told from 2016 through 2020, your estimate of the education among general population seems somewhat unrealistic, just saying. Hey, man, like I said, that's why I'm going public, Chief. You'd be able to call me on it. They would like to have you believe that mainstream Republicans want us to live in the Republic of Gilead. But between 2016 and 2020, they wanted you to believe that Trump was going to have gays in boxcars being sent to re-education camps on behalf of Mike Pence. Anytime you're forcing people into prison camps for disagreeing with you, that's a bad thing. say the same people who, as I illustrated in the prior fucking survey from Rasmussen in January of this year, were ready to send you, yes, you, to prison camps for disagreeing with them. Are you tracking? Do you follow me? The Democratic Party, the hard left, have a bigger projection issue than a busted fucking IMAX. Part of it is their ignorance, but part of it is their history and their role models. Look at Saul Alinsky, Rules for Radicals. Take the time to read that book, okay? Why? Because you want to know your enemy. Take the time, read Saul Alinsky. Take the time, read Che Guevara. Take the time, read Marx and Engels. Be able to get inside their head, because that's something that they're never able to do. People who have a shred of honesty that have existed their whole life on the political left, if they have, I think it was Thomas Sowell who said this publicly. Fact check me on this. But I think it was Thomas Sowell. They asked him in an interview, they said, well, you used to be a hard leftist. What changed your mind? He said, the facts. If they really look, why do you think they want to deplatform us so badly? Why do you think the censorship was so bad about the narrative during the COVID scare that they're now asking for amnesty for trying to shut you up and shut you down and lock you in your house and every other fucking thing? Why is their first instinct always to deplatform you? Because the facts are on our side, Bubba. Yeah, Chief? That dovetailed nicely, didn't it? When you have no facts on your side, fear becomes your only weapon, and they're trying that as hard as possible. Exactly. Scare them. Look what they're doing with old people now. They're going to take away Social Security. Dude, even USA Today called bullshit on that. Do you understand me? USA Today called bullshit on the fear tactic of they're going to be taking away Social Security. CNN this week. Google this. CNN fact checks Biden. Yeah. Biden did a speech, did his typical thing, rattling off lie after lie after lie to try to pad his fucking record. Don't blame him. He doesn't know what day it is. He's just spewing what they tell him to. Look for the earpiece. He's just spewing what they tell him to. Don't blame him. He's a sad, fucked up old man who's done a lot of shit for his life. And him being alive and having to live with Jill, that's punishment enough. Okay? No need to pile on. But he spouted about a half dozen lies, and CNN fact-checked him. Do you understand how significant that is? CNN's under new ownership. There's a new sheriff in town. But look at the difference. We don't, as conservatives, we don't abandon something just because it changes ownership. Now, I might choose not to spend money with your business if you fucking go woke, right? But I'm not going to try to prevent other people from buying shit at your store. I'm not going to stand in front of your store front and be like, nah, man, these dudes are woke. This is fucked up, man. You go in here, man, we're going to brace you, dude. We don't do that. We don't do that. We just laugh and go, look at these ignorant fucks still shopping at fucking woke store over here. The left, they abandon and then they try their best to shut it down. They loved it when Twitter was their voice. They loved the censorship. They loved the control. They loved every bit of it. As soon as Elon Musk took over, all the ones that said, oh, we're leaving if Elon takes it, none of them left. None of them fucking left. You know it wasn't going to happen. But what they want to do is shut everybody up and shut everybody down. They're demanding that the government do something about Twitter to bring it back under control. CNN, when it was the voice of the left, they fucking loved it. They couldn't get enough CNN, even though they knew objectively it was fucking lie. They didn't care. It was the voice of the left. It was their propaganda network, just shy of that Maddow guy on fucking MSNBC. They loved it. As soon as it got under new ownership, all they're doing is leveling the playing field. That's all they've done. They haven't turned into another Fox. They're just actually doing serious journalism again. You know, like they did once upon a time in the 80s when it leaned about as far left as every other, mainstream news service. But they were at least doing serious journalism. And what does the left do? The left abandons it. But they want investigations. They want the government to shut it down. When you don't have the facts on your side, what Chief was just saying, you got to go for fear. And the only way to sustain fear is if you control all the information outlets. And they don't anymore. Ultimately, we're going to win. Who's got time and energy to protest woke? We got to go to work. I got people to train. No shit, Chief. Right there with you. Right there with you. But like Chief was just saying, when you have no facts on your side, fear becomes your only weapon. They're trying that as hard as possible. And here's the deal. It's failing. It's failing. You want to know why? Because people are a lot less afraid of the phantoms of the Republic of Gilead. People are a lot less afraid of the phantoms of Social Security cuts and every other fucking thing. People are a lot less afraid of that than they are of getting mugged. People are a lot less afraid of that than they are of getting raped and killed. People are a lot less afraid of that than they are of their kids not having enough to eat. People are a lot less afraid of climate change than they are of a terrorist walking across the southern border and bombing a fucking shopping mall. Do you track? You feel me? That fear you can only sustain for so long. Just like Chief was saying, that fear is there. It's a powerful fucking weapon. It's all they have. But you can only sustain that for so long. We found that out finally with COVID. You've still got people who are doubling down on the COVID narrative. They are unreachable. They are still driving around with masks on by themselves in their cars. They're unreachable. But the majority, even some of the ones that berated us, I'll never forgive them, and I'll never forget. But even a lot of those people now are like, wow, dude, this is dumb. Hence, why they're asking for this. Because they know they fucked up. And they know they can't sustain it with their bullshit anymore. It's done. This is where we are, guys. This is where we are. It's the ultimate Orwellian word game. Democracy is a threat to democracy. Voting is a threat to democracy. It would be better if you could just shut up and let your intellectual superiors tell you what needed to be done and just go ahead and vote Democrat so we can go on and we can hang on to our power. We don't like this election stuff. We don't dig it. The same people who are decrying election deniers after Tuesday will pivot on a dime and say that their fucking race or their favorite candidate or their favorite election, that it was stolen. We know this. Sure as my pale ass fucking Aryan skin. We know this. We know it's going to happen. They are as pathetic as they are predictable. They are as predictable as they are pathetic. Let it play out. Don't engage. There's no point. Shut up and win. And we stand a chance to win. And this is going to be the last chance. Because this is, for me, my line in the sand. This is the tipping point for me. I'm going to see how these elections go. If they, across the board, are able to sweep and to cheat and to pull it off with no fucking consequences, all right then. Time to move on to the next box. Box? Yeah. Box. There's an old maxim that there are 4 boxes that preserve freedom, that preserve democracy. 4 boxes. The first one is the soapbox. First one's the soapbox. I'm on one right now. No, really, I am, because I'm fucking short and that was the only way I could reach to the webcam. The soapbox is the first one. You stand up on that soapbox and you preach your case. That's right. You're right, Dennis. They're already saying it was stolen. It hadn't happened yet. Hillary came out and said they've already got a plan to steal the 2024 presidential election. So yeah, they're going to be switching. They're going to be switching. Yep, I believe that. I absolutely believe that, Roman. I absolutely believe that. 4 boxes that protect democracy. Soapbox is the first one. You stand up on that soapbox and you plead your case. You preach your gospel. You put the fucking word out. That is the importance of freedom of speech. That is what terrifies the fucking left, because they don't have the facts. They're inefficient at the use of that fucking soapbox. The only way they are efficient at the use of that soapbox is if they're the only ones that have the soapbox. They take the platform away from everyone else. We still have the digital soapbox. I'm on the motherfucker right now. It was easy to control the narrative when you had control of all the platforms, but now one major media platform, non-Fox, has just leveled the playing field over at CNN, and a huge big tech social media platform is now in the hands of conservatives, or at the very least libertarians. So we got the soapbox locked, and we are using that to great effect to hang on to liberty, to hang on to democracy, to hang on to representative government. What comes next? The ballot box. That's the second box that protects democracy. That ballot box. And we're making use of that. Even though it got hijacked in 2020. I said what I said. Might have gotten hijacked. There may have been great malfeasance, but we have made use of the ballot box. And the polls reflect that. The numbers reflect that. The soapbox is what's driving people to the ballot box, and you can expect to see the results of that, because even when they had the biggest chunk of the soapbox, you can only lie so much about such an obvious disaster. Fundamentally what? I say it damn near every week. Fundamentally, people are what? Suckers for what? Fundamentally, people are suckers for the truth. Who are you going to believe? Who are you going to believe? Social media guy and that celebrity, or your own fucking lying eyes, dude? So we got the soapbox, and the soapbox is driving them to the ballot box. If the ballot box fails, there's a third box. I know you're waiting for the last one. Some of you out here know about the 4 boxes. There's a third one, the jury box. Another thing the left would love to take away from us, jury nullification. It's a power that very few people know about. And in fact, if you don't know what I'm talking about with jury nullification, you should look into it. The jury box is just as important. And the only way that the jury box works as a control and as a protection for liberty is if people know about the power of the jury box. What is jury nullification? Jury nullification is a power enshrined in the Constitution. Damn it, Ryan. Jury nullification is a power enshrined in the Constitution to the jury, that if you find that someone has committed the act of which they are charged, but that the law that they have supposedly broken is either harmless or unconstitutional, you can acquit them of the charge. It was used to great effect in the early days of the Union. The early days of this country, the jury box was used to great effect because we had an educated jury pool and an educated electorate. God help you putting yourself in front of a jury these days. But that is the third box. If people knew the power that they had, we wouldn't have to argue about a lot of these things. Oh, you caught this guy smoking weed in the corner? Yeah, well, we definitely caught him smoking weed, but this weed law is fucking stupid. Not guilty. Case closed, you walk. Oh, this guy used a gun to protect himself from home invasion burglars, and that gun was against the law for him to have in that jurisdiction because the magazine held 2 more shots than is legally allowed. He had a 10-round magazine in that 1911 instead of the 8 rounds allowed by law, and he shot and killed people who were trying to rape and kill his family. Well, that's against the law. But with the jury box, the jury can say, yeah, it's against the law. Absolutely against the law. He killed them. Yeah, that's against the law too. But they were breaking into his house and he did what it took to defend himself and his family. Not guilty. Case closed. Goodbye, Mr. Defendant. We'll see you another day. We have that power as jurors. Very few people know about jury nullification. But the soapbox can help us reach people about the jury box. Just like it's driving people to the ballot box. But you heard me tell you there were 4 boxes. Soapbox is driving people to the jury box. The soapbox, that's why I hold that the soapbox is the most important. Man, nothing is as powerful as the spoken word in conveying an idea. That's why they have to shut it down. Soapbox will always be, first and foremost, the most important. Free speech will always be the pinnacle principle, which is why I'm an absolutist about it. The soapbox is what will feed the ballot box, what will drive people to the ballot box. That soapbox is what will educate people about the power that they have in the jury box. So we got the soapbox, we got the ballot box, we got the jury box. What's the 4th box? The 4th box is the cartridge box. God help us if we get there. Let me say that again because it can't be stressed enough. God help us if we get there. The soapbox, one of the reasons why the left is so afraid of the soapbox is because the soapbox drives the ballot box, reminds people about the jury box, but it also taps them on the shoulder to let them know that we have the final outlet of the cartridge box. God help us if we get there. Let me say it again. It can't be stressed enough. People who have seen the results of violence, people who have inflicted violence, people who are skilled at violence, people who have reluctantly had violence thrust upon them, they are people that would do anything in the fucking world to avoid violence. But those of us who are skilled at it, those of us who have inflicted it, those of us who are capable of it and inclined to it, will not shirk from that responsibility should it come. God help us if we get there. Let me say it again because it can't be stressed enough. It is important to clear one's conscience. Before it gets to the cartridge box, we want to have exhausted every option that we have on the soapbox in an attempt to drive people to the ballot box and win, because this is still a representative government, a constitutional republic. What did Franklin say? A republic, if you can keep it. We're doing our best to keep it. So the soapbox drives to the ballot box. And when that fails, we have the jury box. And the soapbox reminds people that we have the power of that jury box. And we can exercise it then and strike down the laws for those who would overreach. But the final out is that cartridge box. Some of you out there have got very, very well stocked cartridge boxes. And pray to God that it never gets there. Let me say that again because it can't be stressed enough. God help us if we get there. But we are going in to the final stages of this game with a clear conscience. We did not pick this fight. I haven't had a conservative or Republican since the 1980s try to tell me how to run my fucking life. I haven't had a conservative or Republican since the 1980s try to tell me what I could or couldn't say because it wasn't acceptable to the public fucking dialogue or discourse. I haven't had a Republican since the 1980s tell me that I had to step off my soapbox for whatever reason. Soapbox drives the ballot box. Soapbox reminds us of the jury box. Soapbox keeps us aware of that cartridge box. That cartridge box is there. We are going into the final stages, and we have cleared our conscience that we have exhausted every possibility. We have exhausted every possibility that was available to us before stepping to that final option. Soapbox, ballot box, jury box, finally the cartridge box. God help us if we get there. But if we do get there, God help them for leaving us with no alternative. I am the Reverend. That is the gospel. Appreciate you guys being here. Don't get too heavy, people. Don't get too heavy. We're going into this thing with our hands up, right? Chin down, hands up. And we're going into the final rounds ahead on points. That's the beauty of it. Don't ever rule out that a couple of the judges at ringside might not be bought. Don't ever rule out that the referee might be paid off by a syndicate or some gamblers. Don't ever buy off that the fight might not be fixed. Could happen. But I feel good about what's about to happen Tuesday. I don't think I'm going to be excited about the way every one of these things turns out. But I think by and large, we win. Overwhelmingly. We win in such a way that it sends a message. And here's the other thing not to write off. They don't like being reminded that we still have the power. Look at how they reacted to 2016. They don't like that. You can expect, if we carry the day on Tuesday, that the next 2 years are going to get big fucking ugly. Big ugly. Executive orders like you've never seen. None of which will hold up in the courts. They will tell you that we stole the election. They will tell you that Russians interfered. They will tell you that the right-wing extremists are running loose in the streets. They will tell you that we live under fascism, blah, 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 blah. We've heard it all before. Don't engage. Shut up and win. They will call you a racist. They will call you a homophobe. They will call you a xenophobe. They will call you a fascist. It doesn't matter. Don't engage. Shut up and win. It's our time now. Got close with last week. It's our time now. We're going to step up to that mantle. We're going to thump our chest, and we're going to go in with our heads held high. Grown-ups are back in charge, motherfucker. Set it aside. Your tears are going to be fucking delicious. I already got a mug put to the side. Fuck, I think I got room in this one. Anyway, man, I appreciate you guys hanging out. Thanks to every one of you, the usual suspects, the guys that show up for the first time, the guys that are just checking it out because somebody else shared it on their social media platform. We're going to go ahead and go out with the outro music. Fortunate Son by Clutch. Yes, sir. A little bit of Clutch on the way out, man. Fortunate Son, Neil Fallon and Clutch. If you haven't seen them live, check them out. Hey, guys, if you dug what I had to say, if anything changed anything, if you just say, hey, man, this guy entertains me and that's worth a couple of bucks, I'm going to pass that digital collection plate around, man. You can drop something in it. I'm on Cash App, I'm on PayPal, I'm on Venmo, I'm on Facebook Pay, I'm on every goddamn thing. You know, drop a little coin in the digital collection plate. That's great. If you can't, I get it. Believe me, I totally get it. That's why I've still got a day job, man. This is a Biden economy, motherfucker, and it's ugly for everybody. Believe that. But here's what you can do for me, man. If you want to help out, can't throw any coin, you want to help me out, you got a Facebook page, post the link, share it. You got a Twitter feed, repost. You know, you got any social media presence at all, man, repost the broadcast. Let them know it's a fat, toothless cripple. Crane operator with some opinions. He gets in rants and raves every fucking Sunday for a couple hours, man. Post it to your Facebook wall. Spread that gospel, man. I would certainly appreciate it. For all my Reverends Rangers, my sinner sisters, my prophets of doom out there, man, I freaking love you guys. Thank you for everything that you do. I got one more thing to ask of you, though, man. This isn't for me, man. Well, it is for me, but it's for you. You guys know the directives, man. You can quote them by memory by now. The signal-to-noise ratio is all fucked up. You got to be that signal to break through the noise. Don't get caught up in the distractions. Stay on point. Stay on message. Be the signal that breaks through the noise. They'll try to bury you in darkness, man. They'll try to dehumanize you, demoralize you, take away your spirit, your spine, and your balls. Don't let them do it to you, man. Be that light that breaks through the darkness. Be that light just to spite them because they want to emasculate you with the darkness. But the number one rule, the iron rule, in a world full of weakness, you got to be that strength, man. You have got to be that strength in a world full of weakness. Nothing is more important because without the strength, you won't be able to be the signal that breaks through the noise or the light that breaks through the darkness. Strength is the iron rule. And remember, boys and girls, violence is golden, and immolation is the sincerest form of flattery. I appreciate you guys being here, man. Thanks for showing up on another Sunday. We'll see you next Sunday, man. I'll be back with some more rants and raves and hate speech and thought crime and all that good shit. I am the Reverend. That is the gospel. Love you guys. Appreciate you. Peace. See you next Sunday. I'm out. Immolation is the sincerest form of flattery. What the fuck?